Hello and welcome back. Last week we chatted all about fruit salad fabrics. Fruit salad will be in quilt shops in April of 2026. And if you missed that video, you're going to want to go back and take a watch because today I'm chatting about all of the new patterns that I designed for the fruit salad fabric collection. We did things a little bit differently this time around, and I think it's a lot of fun. If you like this format, be sure to let me know because I enjoyed filming it this way, and I think it would be fun to show you this behind the scenes for future collections as well. So starting in July, we filmed weekly a little clip of what was going on in the pattern making process. So every week you see new blocks, you hear me chat about the patterns, you see completed quilt tops, and I just work my way through the patterns. And it was just a lot of fun for me to chat with you guys this way. And that's what you're going to get to watch right now. Hello. So typically you guys don't get to see this sneak into the behind the scenes because what I'm sharing today is my new fruit salad patterns, but I am sharing them in progress. Oftentimes, I think every time I share these, it's at the end. The patterns are done, the blocks are done, the quilts are done, and you are seeing my completed quilts. But I thought it would be fun to film an in advance series of videos leading up to the release of these patterns. So by the time you guys are seeing this, everything is going to be done, but you are going to get to see it happen from week to week. So today is July 1st. I just finished writing all of my brand new fruit salad patterns yesterday. By the time you're seeing this video, you have already seen a peek of my fruit salad fabrics. Those are coming out next year in 2026, but of course the quilt shops need to have time to get those fabrics ordered. My patterns also have to be done by the time the quilt shops are ordering those fabrics so that they can see what I have designed to go along with the collection. So we're always working in advance, but this time you're going to get to see a little bit of that. So when I design my quilt patterns, I always design them after the fabric line is completed. I'll design all of my fabrics, get all of that process wrapped up, and then I start designing my patterns. I do my design work for the patterns. I'll use graph paper sometimes. I use a lot of electric quilt, and I use a lot of Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator. So those are my primary sources that I am working with. I will get everything, all of the patterns designed first, and then I do all of the math, and then I do all of the pattern writing, and then I do all of the quilt making. I've debated before about doing one pattern at a time. So design one pattern, do the pattern math, write the pattern, and then make that quilt using the pattern. But for some reason, my head just doesn't work that way. So this is my method and what works for me. So yesterday, June 30th, I wrote up the last quilt pattern, and it was Barn Star number 12. We've got a brand new Barn Star pattern coming out with this release of patterns. We always have a Barn Star pattern because they are just such fun little quilts to make. So that was the last quilt that I wrote in this series. I'm so excited about every last one of these patterns. I can't wait to start making them. So Barn Star 12, Strawberry Sampler. Isn't this the cutest quilt ever? I cannot wait to make this. Every quilt, I would write it, I'd get excited to design it. I loved the way it turned out. I loved writing it, and then now I'm excited to get to make them all. So this is Strawberry Sampler. It's a, as the name says, a strawberry sampler quilt. It has 5 different patchwork strawberries, and it just, what a perfect summer quilt. So Strawberry Sampler, and it's always fun when you're making, a block-based quilt like this, if your blocks are different, because it keeps things interesting. So the fact that I get to piece a few different blocks for this sampler quilt is going to be a lot of fun. We have Apple Tango. I just think this is adorable. Again, going with the whole fruit theme. Fruit salad is the fabric line, so we need an apple quilt. We've got our strawberry quilt. This is a jelly roll quilt, and I love all of the colors. I love the movement. I love that these are apples, but that at first glance, they kind of look like flowers. I think that's just adorable, and I'm excited to make this quilt too. Every last one. This next one is Fruitful. a star quilt and kind of an echoed star quilt. I really like the way these are laid out in this layout where they're not just straight across and just lined up horizontally and vertically. They've got a lot of movement. I think the scalloped border I created here is super cute, just framing out all of the prints. I oftentimes get asked about using background fabric other than white. So this one has blue. For those of you that ask me about this, I do use a lot of other background fabrics. I love using dark grays especially. Etchings, charcoal, etchings, slate are two dark grays that are Montebellas that I use a lot, but I don't think I've done it recently. So those of you that have just stumbled across my channel, just stumbled across Coriander Quilts fabrics, may not be aware of how often I use darker backgrounds. In fact, this current quilt I have hanging in my backdrop here, this is a quilt called Summer Weekend. I released it with my sun-washed line of fabric, and you can see it has a beautiful dark blue background for that one. So, but for those of you asking, here's another one that's going to have a darker background. And then the last one that I have is flower tiled, and I cannot wait to make this one. I've been eagerly awaiting the moment I can start piecing this one. It's going to be the first one that I piece. It's a layer cake friendly quilt, and I love all of the colors. I love that it lets you showcase those prints so nicely. This is the first one that I'm piecing. So I am going to start cutting out this one, start working on the blocks for this one. And then once a week, I'm going to give you an update as we work our way to the release of these patterns. So that's where I'm starting, flower tiled. This quilt here, I don't think I said the pre-cut. It's a fat eighth bundle. So a little bit of everything, layer cake, fat eighth, jelly roll, yardage, yardage. And they're all gonna be so much fun to make. So we're just going to get started. I will, the next little segment you're going to watch is going to be a week from now, but it's just going to be a few seconds for you, and you'll get to see my progress over the last week. It is now July 8, 1 week since I last shared, and I've got a completed quilt top. My flower tiled quilt is all finished. I finished it up just last night, and I'm pretty happy with my progress because we had a busy weekend and lots of things going on. So I am tickled to have this complete. Here is what she looks like. So last week when we chatted, I hadn't started on this quilt at all. And, oh, Tigsy's in the studio right now and he's jamming around. If you see my quilts moving back here, it's because he is attacking things. So I'm real happy with this. One of the fun things about starting the first pattern in a new pattern release is it's the first time these fabrics are being turned into anything. I have had these fabrics sketched up, drawn, and just waiting to be used, and now I'm the first person who gets to sew with them. It's fun to see how they all play together, how the colors work, how the prints work, and it's just a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed sewing this. I love this quilt. Love the way it turned out. I like all of the colors. I like kind of the rainbow order. I just think it turned out beautifully. I'm excited to see this one quilted up, and I just think it turned out so pretty. Like that border, how that frames everything out. That's just that little blue pin dot. Super versatile. And I used the white on white fabric from the collection for all of the sashing and the piecing in the blocks, and I just love it. So I made myself a couple notes that I wanted to make sure and chat about when I was talking about this quilt today. So I don't know if I had mentioned too much about the things that I'm looking for when I am initially making my test quilts. So I always write everything, illustrate everything to start with. And then when it comes down to making the quilts, I am making sure that all of the measurements I have listed throughout the pattern are accurate. I am making sure that everything lines up as it should, that the pressing is correct. There he comes. I thought he might join us. That the pressing instructions I've given are correct and that everything just comes together as I want it to. When I was making this quilt, I did find one spot when it came time to sew all of the blocks and the sashing together that I needed to update the pressing, so I got that taken care of. And I think that was the only thing I noticed. All of my yardages worked, everything came together beautifully. So now the next thing that I need to do is send my pattern after I've made that correction to it, send my pattern to my technical editor, and she will go over everything again. And she is also looking for anything that might be inconsistent, any wording that could be made clearer, making sure that it flows with how my previous patterns have. If I typically say things a certain way, she's going to make sure that I am consistently saying things that way, so that if you purchase my patterns, one pattern to the next, they have the same coriander quilts feel to them. So that's what's going to happen next. And then the next thing for me here is to choose my next pattern that I'm going to work on. Now I am debating between Barnstar 12. This little guy here, I could easily make this and finish this quickly, and Fruitful right here. This one is one that I might make next. I'm not sure. I need to double check. I'm waiting on a little bit more of the white on white fabric, and I need a red solid that I don't have, that I'm also waiting on. So these two both require that red solid, so I probably won't work on either of those. So as long as I have enough of my white on white to make this guy here, or at least get me a good start, this is the one I'm going to be working on for the upcoming week. I'm hopeful that by next week, when I chat with you again, there's a lot of piecing in this one, but I'm hopeful that this one will be done. I'd love to have more than that done, but we'll see what happens. So I will keep you guys updated. But that's where we're at for this week. It is now July 15th, a week later, and progress has been made. I've got another quilt top finished. This little fella here was the one I decided to do next, and it is done. Done, done, done. There's a lot of piecing in this one, but it turned out super cute. I love this scalloped border. I think that's so much fun. It would also be really pretty to add another outer border on here in white, so the scallop would show up even more, but super pretty as is. So this one is done, and not only that, but I also started on the next one, and the blocks are almost complete. So this one is called Fruitful, is that right? I'm gonna have to... Oh, Apple Tangle is coming. Oh, okay. This one right here. Isn't this one Fruitful? I don't know. I have to learn a whole new batch of pattern names. I think this one is called Fruitful. Nicole's gonna go see if she can track down my pattern. I'm not even sure where it is. It might be over on my desk. Is it just laying there? Fruitful, yes. Fruitful is done. Apple Tango is the one I started on after that, which Nicole had that name right on the ball. And these are the Apple Tango blocks. This one is completely done. And I've got this whole pile nearly done. So let's slide this over. They need the white strip on the left side. That's all this pile needs. There are 48 blocks in this quilt, so a lot of blocks, but they went together so nicely. And I love all of these bright, happy colors. Let me show you. Yeah, here's the pattern cover right there. So just a happy, fun array of blocks. It's not going to take long now just to add that final strip. The pattern doesn't have any sashing, no borders. So once I get the blocks done, it's just a matter of sewing them together, and that quilt top is going to be done too. So I'm excited for this one. Really happy with the amount of progress that I had over the last week. I have, let's see, next week, a week from today, the 22nd. So I think my deadline is the 23rd of July. So I have just over a week to make sure all of my fabric requirements are good for these patterns. The patterns don't have to be done. I am, of course, testing them as I go, as I've said, but my main thing that I need to do right now is just make sure my fabric requirements are what they need to be. So that I should be able to get that handled here over the next week. I have 2 more quilts to make after Apple Tango. We've got Strawberry Sampler. That's going to take a fair amount of time, but that gets done, and then Barnstar 12. That one will go fast, so a little bit longer and fast. So I think I am in pretty good shape. I'll let you know what happens by next week. And today is July 22nd. We are a week out from the last time I talked to you, and here is our current status, what we have going on. So after we talked last week, I put together, well, I didn't finish sewing them, but I've got all of my Apple Tango blocks pinned together and labeled. So they are ready to be sewn together. At this stage of the game right now, my main concern, is testing the pattern. That's a little bit secondary to my big need, which is making sure that my yardage requirements are accurate so that I can get those turned in this week and know that everything I'm turning in is accurate as far as yardages. The patterns themselves don't have to be done. They still have quite a bit to go through before they are going to be finalized, but yardages is what I'm checking. So I know that these yardages are fine, so I wasn't as concerned to complete this quilt top right away because I knew that I still needed to check on some other patterns. So I moved right into Strawberry Sampler, which is what is just off camera here. But what we're going to talk about next. I need a bigger table here to keep everything where I need it to be. All right, so Strawberry Sampler is here. This one has been just a delight to piece. I did find myself needing to make quite a few changes to the pattern as I worked my way through. There was some pressing things that needed done. A little bit of cutting that I had to update. This is why I love doing this all myself, because then I can check everything and I know what's happening. And so it's very beneficial to me to make these and then adjust patterns as I need to. So I have all of my strawberry blocks complete. They were so much fun to make. Once I had tested out the center portion of each of these little strawberry sampler blocks, then I was able just to start chain piecing. So I did this top portion of all of the stems for all of the strawberries. So really all I had to do then was the bottom portion, which really streamlined things. And I chain pieced as much as I could because that just keeps things moving along. So these were a lot of fun. There's only 4 of every strawberry, so they went pretty fast. And it was just fun. Just fun having something a little bit different every 4 blocks. This is what they look like. Just a whole little strawberry extravaganza over here. So that's the last one. So all of these little pretties and just a lot of fun to piece. When I was testing out, I started with this 9-patch center and I was testing this one out and I pieced it wrong. I didn't follow my own instructions. And so I got to, I don't even know what step I was at, probably this bit without these sides added on. And started looking, it was this stem portion I had pieced wrong, started looking and was thinking, oh my goodness, I could have pieced this a much simpler way. I'm going to need to rewrite this whole portion of my pattern because I didn't piece it the simplest way that I could have. I had some extra seams and I thought, oh goodness, this is going to take a while, but I really do need to, you want to piece it the best way that you can. And I thought I'm going to need to rewrite patterns. And when you have to rewrite patterns, when you change something at the beginning of the pattern, it affects things all the way through as far as your lettering. I have everything, well, you can see here, all of my pieces have a letter in my patterns. So as soon as I change something that changes a letter right at the beginning in the cutting instructions, everything needs relabeled. All of the illustrations need relabeled, the instructions need relabeled all the way through the pattern. So finding a lettering error at the beginning of a pattern is a big deal. It's going to take a lot of time to fix that. So as much as I didn't want to rewrite the pattern, I knew that that was going to be best for the pattern. And so I thought I just need to get this done. I started working at my computer to get things rolling. And I realized, no, I had not written the pattern wrong. I just hadn't followed my pattern as I was piecing my block. And I told Nicole I've never been so glad to have pieced something wrong because I just had to remake my block, just a little portion of my block. I didn't actually need to revamp my pattern. And I was so thankful that my pattern was accurate as it was and I didn't need to go to the work of rewriting everything. So that happened as I was testing this, but thank goodness. Pattern was good. I've got the sashing done All of these pretty little sashings. This print is just delightful. I've really enjoyed working with that. It looks just like a little fruity toile sort of print, which I think is just really pretty. So those were just fun. I've got my little 9 patches over here, all done. So all of the piecing is done for this quilt. It's ready to be put together. The borders will need to be cut, sewn, and added, but the bulk of the work on this one is done. So it's looking pretty good. All the changes I've found and updates have been made. So that one is looking great. I'll need to wrap that one up, but I can kind of set that to the side and I can work on this one here, which you can see I've got everything cut out. This is the barn star for this collection. Everything is cut out. So I found a yardage that I wanted to increase as I was working my way through these. And I've got everything cut, so now it is ready to be pieced. So things are looking good. This is the last one of the 5 new patterns that needs to be put together yet. So as long as this one goes together quickly, which it will, it'll go quickly and accurately, I'm going to be in good shape to meet my deadline this week, which makes me very excited. So we'll see. I'll let you know next week what happens. Hopefully I'm able to say, yay, deadline met, everything worked great. Quilts are, I don't know if I'll have all the quilts done by next week. I don't actually have to have everything sewn together. I just need to make sure my yardages are right. So with luck, I will have them all sewn together and I'll just be that much more ahead of the game. So we'll see what happens. Today is July 29th and we have 2 more completed quilt tops. I finished up Barn Star 12. This one went pretty fast after we last talked, just a few hours if I remember correctly. I think it turned out so pretty. Let's look at that. I just keep saying that. I know you hear me say that every week. I've just been loving these quilts. They've been so much fun to sew together and they are turning out so pretty. The palette is just so summery. I won't go on and on about the fabrics again today because I think you know my feelings on them. I've really been enjoying them, but this is Barn Star 12. That's another 40-inch square quilt pattern and very starry. So that one is done. I also finished up the Apple Tango. I've got those blocks sewn together, so I'll show you that one. This is a big quilt, and just as I was finishing sewing this up, Eleni saw this quilt and she said, well, that is a perfect back to school quilt. And then after looking at it, I thought, you know, I think she's right. So if any of you make teacher gifts, quilted teacher gifts, I know some of you do. I'm always so amazed that you gift such a wonderful present to your kids' teachers, but this is a perfect teacher gift. This is Apple Tango, and it's a really big quilt, jelly roll quilt, and just full of color. I love those apples. I talked about these blocks before when I had completed them, but here is the completed quilt, and I think it turned out so cute. Look at that. Such a fun one. It was also fun to sew, went pretty fast, and there she is. So that one is done. And then the strawberry blocks still need sewn together. I didn't need to get those completed to completely test out my yardages to meet my deadline last week. So they're still in the same position they were last week. I'll get these sewn together this week and be able to show those to you. Well, it's just going to be in a couple minutes here because these videos go pretty fast when I'm only filming one a week to show you, but I will have these done here in just a little bit. But my deadline was met, my patterns are coming together beautifully, and I couldn't be happier with them. It's been 2 weeks since we last chatted. Today is August 12th, and it wasn't because there was lack of things to share. It was simply because I forgot to share. I forgot to film last week this portion of our update. So today, I am showing you the completed strawberry sampler quilt, and she turned out so cute. But here's what it looks like with all of the sashing added, borders added. It was such a fun quilt to put together. And I always love these quilts where I know exactly where everything goes, excuse me, and I don't need to use a design wall, because this is just, you can tell, well, I need my 9-patch strawberry here, and I need my sawtooth star strawberry here, and then my friendship star strawberry comes next. It makes it so nice. You can just have your blocks stacked beside you at your sewing machine and your sashing blocks and just sew everything together, which is really nice. So I'm going to lay this one out just a little bit. I love the way the sashing turned out with that lighter, the little lighter blue print. Well, it's the dark blue on white print. It's the same print as the white on white in the collection, and it just gives it just a little bit of color in this section, and then the darker blue portions here. Also, since we last chatted, I found out that Moda is going to be kitting this quilt. So this will be offered in one of those adorable boxes that they put together as a complete kit with the fabrics that you need to complete the quilt top and then the pattern. I think they usually add the binding in there, so then all you really need is just your backing fabric, and you have a completed quilt. So it's always fun. They choose which patterns they decide to kit. It's always fun when a pattern is kitted by Moda. Now, I do like to mention that if you see a pattern by myself or any other fabric designer for that matter, most quilt shops are very happy to kit a project for you if they've gotten that line of fabric in. So keep that in mind. Even if it's not a project Moda might be offering as a kit, I very seldom sell fabric, so I don't hardly ever do kits. Just know that your favorite quilt shop might be willing to kit that for you, and it's certainly worth checking with them if there is a pattern that you just love and you'd love to have a kit for. So, strawberry sampler, there she is. This was the last one that I needed to complete of the new quilt patterns. And the next thing I need to do is to get my backings sewn. I have all of my backing fabrics, so I need to get those pieced. And then I need to decide on my quilting designs for each of the new quilts. Those are things I always do last. The backing, I never really like piecing backings. There are no 108s available in this line of fabric in fruit salad, so no 108s, which means I get to piece some backings, which will be fine. I'll get them done, but it's probably my least favorite part of making quilts. Just don't like piecing those backings. But I'll get that done and then choose the quilt patterns. Sometimes that goes really fast and sometimes that takes me a little bit longer. So I'm hoping this is it goes fast time, because I can overthink quilting, and then other times I'm just real happy with my initial thoughts on what I want the quilting to be. So I will keep you updated. Maybe I'll show you in the next update the backings completed. That'll give me incentive to get those done this week. The backings completed, and then also my quilting designs chosen. And that will be the next update for next week. Today is September 2nd. So we have had a bit of time pass since I last chatted with you. It's not because my quilt backings weren't done. Do not fear, I did get them done. I actually got them done a while ago. I just didn't get this video filmed. So we have a nice, beautiful stack of quilt tops with their assigned backings ready to go out to my quilter. I still need to decide on my quilting patterns. That's taking me a little bit longer this time around to nail down exactly how I want these quilt tops quilted, but I am slowly making progress on that as well. But let's just chat about these backings. My least favorite part of making a quilt is getting the backings pieced. And it doesn't even take that long. It did not take me long to get all of these backings pieced and ready to go. I just don't like doing it. I get to having the quilt top finished and I'm ready to be done with that project and move on to the next. And to have backings that still need pieced is not my favorite, but they are now done. So this is the backing for my Apple Tango quilt. Nicole keeps saying that this print needs to be made into a phone case. I don't think that's going to happen, but wouldn't that be super cute? So that's the backing for this quilt. Next up, we have flower tiled, and this is the backing for this quilt, flower tiled. I think that'll be really pretty. I loved making this quilt. This is a layer cake quilt, and it was just so fun to make. They were all fun. I love all the quilts in this batch. Just a real delightful batch of quilts to make. So that's this one. This next one is Fruitful, and this is the light blue version of what you just saw here. So Flower Tiled gets the dark blue, Fruitful gets the light blue. There's that one. Next up, we have the new Barn Star. Barn Star gets the strawberry print on the dark blue. Ready to go. And then lastly is Strawberry Sampler. Well, of course, Strawberry Sampler needed to have a strawberry fabric for the backing, so it gets the strawberries on the red. So there is that one. I have to decide on those quilting patterns next, and I have to cut my binding fabrics. My quilter offers binding services, so I always send out my binding fabrics so that he does the binding, and when I get my quilts back, they are completely done. Bindings are done, quilting is done. I open up my box and I have a quilt ready to use. So I need to cut my bindings, decide on those quilting patterns, and then get these sent out. I've decided that this is going to be the last installment in this video. It's been really fun to kind of share this little bit of behind the scenes of bringing these patterns to life, these quilts to life. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Next week, I'm going to be sharing the completed quilts for this fruit salad collection, so you can see all of the completed quilts, quilted, bound. I'll talk about them a little bit more. The patterns are all available currently in my Etsy shop, so if you want to get a sneak peek, if you can't wait till next week, you can go ahead and do that. They're available to purchase, so you can take advantage of that if you want to, or if you want to wait until I share next week. I am so looking forward to sharing them. As I am filming this, of course, I haven't seen my completed quilts, and it's always so much fun once we finally get to that point. So be sure to come back so that I get to share all of those with each and every one of you. So what do you think? Was it fun to watch things that way? I know I enjoyed looking back and seeing how things were going this summer for me. It's a little bit of a peek into, things that you don't get to see normally. You hear us talk about what's going on, but then bam, the quilts are done and you don't get to see that portion of what's going on. So I thought it was fun to share that way. Let me know what you think. And be sure to come back next week because I am going to be sharing the completed quilts. I did finally decide on quilting for all of them and and have gotten those back and quilted, and they are complete, and I can't wait to share those with you. So I'll be doing that next week. I also decided that we're going just to need to bump back the work in progress video, as well as me chatting about the $5 pattern of the month for October. We're already in October, which is just ridiculous. So I'm going to be talking about those things next Saturday as well. I do have the $5 pattern listed over in my Etsy shop, so it is $5 over there. If you wanted to get a little sneak peek of which one I'm offering this month, you can certainly do that, but I'll chat about that one next week also. So I think that wraps up everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next week.